Good morning, everybody. My name is Garrett Deetz. I'm the CEO and part owner of a place called Divergent Recovery. But I don't come here to talk about my company. I'll give you a story, man. So
when I was a kid, I wanted to be a brain surgeon, right? I wanted to be a brain surgeon. When all those little kids wanted to be nurses and doctors and police officers and all those things, I was telling people I was gonna be a brain surgeon, right? And I ended up being a dude doing prison and gangs and violence and all this other stuff for 30 plus years, right? So what I mean is that my childhood wasn't bad. It wasn't it wasn't where I grew up that made me a bad person. It's what I got involved in.
And last but not least, Ro just came up and she was talking about getting your rights restored. I've got 57 convictions, 57 felony convictions. I've got 2 federal convictions. Just last week, I got all my rights restored and my guns, right? So if you think you can't do change, you can, man, but you gotta really wanna do the change. And if you don't want the change, like I said, that's cool. Go get it in, man. And hopefully you make it back, hopefully. Again, if you have any questions or you have anything you need help with, I'll be in the back, man. You guys have a good day.
Figure out
What's up, bro?
ways.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
All right. I wanted to get your number, man, because shit happens, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the time.
It shouldn't, but it
Yeah,
can.
I know it does, so I'm just like, you know what? I better just get his number. Yeah, and I'm not planning on messing up or nothing, but...
Yeah, and you can call on me too.
Dude, listen, if you're working with her, bro, you should be golden.
Yeah, I landed a job and everything already. Like, I'm good and I ain't gonna use or nothing, but it's always good to
If it
have
happens, yeah,
resources.
480.
I walked what they call walking your line at 16. Basically what it is typically like you'll have 5 or 6 dudes, maybe 8 dudes, and they stand away from each other, like at an arm's distance. So it'd be this guy and then the next guy. And so 4 guys on one side, 4 guys on the other side, and you walk down that line and they just bang on you. I walked 32 guys. But I was so involved with all the other dudes, like all the different crews. There was so many different fashions to being a skinhead, right? There were so many different groups, and I kicked it with all of them, man. So when they heard I was walking the line, everybody wanted to be involved, you know what I mean? Because in that day, that was kind of an honor, like to be able to be a part of that line and walk that line, you know? Skinheads are no joke, right? And it's a very white power, racist belief. So I just excelled, man. I went to any lengths. There was nothing they couldn't ask me to do that I didn't do. You know what I mean? I went above and beyond. I don't think I could ever put into content how dark it really gets, right? Living in that world of hate and discontent and judgment, right?
I really appreciate Garrett and all the support he gives me, and I think the fact that he wants to, give back and help people in their own recovery in the way, that like in ways that made differences in his own journey. I think that's wonderful. I think there's nobody better to do that, to offer that to support people than those who have actually lived that experience. So, I think he is making, astronomical change in this field.
How you doing, though? You good?
We're good, man. Trying to get a job, man, and get back on track.
Do you have, or do you want to learn electrical trade?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, anything, you know what I mean?
Listen.
That's my PO right there, and hey,
Who's your PO?
right here, her.
Oh, all right.
But I'm trying to get a job so I can, help pay my restitution and get out of that place.
Listen, you got your phone?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you my boy Tommy's number. He owns an electric company. He was
I
just
think the
up here.
connection that he can make naturally with people that are struggling is amazing. And I've seen it happen multiple times. He just knows how to meet people right where they're at.
I dibbled and dabbled with the cocaine because we weren't supposed to use drugs, right? We're not allowed to get mind-altering substances. But I did my first line of meth, not knowing it was meth, thinking it was cocaine. And man, I was good. After that, man, there's definitely nothing you can't tell me I won't do. And I was out here in Phoenix and I was just tearing it up, man. Bad. Doing a lot of bad things, man.
Our life was the game, man. I had a house here in Mesa, which was the trap house pretty much. I was I guess you consider one of the dope men in the neighborhood. And, I'd tell him what I needed, and within hours it was at my door. And it was just, it was an existence, man. It wasn't even a life, you know what I mean? It was fun at the time, I guess. But now looking back on it, we were menaces, man. We were taken from the community, we were taken from society, we were taken from our loved ones. You know what I mean? He took from his kids. There was a long period of time where, his kids didn't really know they had a father.
My mom, I got out the first time, she wanted me to take me to Europe with her. And I remember telling her, I'm not gonna be able to make that trip, right? I knew I was going back to prison. And then when I got out the second time, 2008, I remember my mom asking me again, hey, we're gonna go to Europe. And I was just like, I'm going back. I knew I was going back. I knew I didn't care. My daughter was born. I had a son out there somewhere. I didn't care, man. I really didn't care.
I kind of resented him growing up a lot, actually. I did, because I just couldn't understand why that life was so much more important than mine. And he says he loves me, but he chose that life. I have a few memories of him from when I was little. They're just him taking me on runs with him, having to drive around the block for hours and hours over and over again just to be out of the house because there was bad stuff going on in the house. Other than that, the only memories I really have is seeing him in prison and visiting him almost every weekend. I used to lie about him all the time. I would tell all my friends that he was just traveling for work. All my friends either had a dad or both their parents, and I didn't have either. So growing up, I was just so confused if he was good or bad, because I didn't know. I knew he was good to me, and he was there for me over the phone and through letters, but I didn't know. I didn't understand.
Thursday is Thanksgiving, and then we have chapter 16 the week after, and then we'll have a final exam review, and your final is that next week.
I spent over 25 years in prison, probably 10 or 12 years of that 25 years in solitary confinement. And I don't like I said, for me, man, gangs and violence was my life. And so I did everything and anything in prison in the beginning that I was asked to do. Right? And it didn't matter. You can let your mind wander, and that's exactly probably what happened. And then I became the guy that was able to make other people do that.
Garrett was a hardcore skinhead gang leader. And it didn't matter who you were with. If he wanted you out of the way, he was gonna get you out of the way. It didn't matter what you were about. If he had a vision, it was gonna happen. He was feared. Right? I mean, I seen the side of him where he could tell people to do stuff and they would do it. Every skinhead wanted to emulate him. They wanted his love, his praise, his affection. And I think that when we first met, he realized that there was a life out there and he had lived a little bit of it. And now it was being taken away from him.
I can tell you times that I would be in Max, and Najee would come to me and tell me, he's like, man, hey, and my name was Grumpy, and he'd be like, hey, Grumpy, why don't you stop and come to group? And I'm like, bro, I got 2 pounds of drugs in my house. What do you want me to do, go to group for? I don't have no reason to be in group, right? And it wasn't 2 pounds, I'm just making an exaggeration.
I had been in since 77 when he got there, right? I was in charge of all the Muslims in the state. I was the head dude. But my thing was about always bridging the gaps. You had brothers in there, and I'm talking about African Americans in there, talking about, man, them skinheads, man, the Aryan Brotherhood and stuff. Hey, I'm like this here. If you proud of who you are, I'm proud for you. As long as you don't oppress me, we good. A lot of times you can see something in a person that they can't see in themselves. You know what I mean? I just saw something in him, man, And yeah, he was a piece of work. He was a piece of work. He flat out told me, I ain't ready. You know, because I used to always tell him, there's only two ways to do this, bro. You can play prison or you can get ready for the rest of your life. That's the only two ways to do this.
My guys wanted to follow me into a personal issue I had with another group. And I was literally like trying to enforce it and keep it going and trying to like really progress this gang war. And I had a buddy of mine that had just kind of like what they call renounced. He decided he was out, he was gonna walk away, and he was just really selling me on trying to like get me to walk away from gangs and violence, and I just wasn't having it. I had like 5 years left on a 10-year sentence. And I didn't want to stop. I loved being an angry, violent person.
I knew exactly what he's trying to do, and I told him, man, you're not gonna win. This is gonna be a war, okay? And the difference is, I'm not saying that he couldn't band together every skinhead on the yard or in the system, because they would listen. The difference was, you're not winning a war. You're not gonna be able to win a war in their backyard. Either you're gonna kill a couple of people or they're gonna kill you, right? And he's like, nobody's gonna kill me. I'm gonna kill them. And he already told those people that he was gonna kill them, every single one of them, over me. I have a couple options, right? You don't get the phone very much. I'm sending messages out to try to get a hold of him. I don't really know her that well, but I was able to call a chick that obviously was acquaintance of Garrett and pass a message through her, right? I didn't call his mom and dad. I had to reach out to the best numbers I could.
He ended up getting a hold of my mom somehow. And my mom, I called her home one day and she said, if you don't do what they're telling you to do and walk away from all this nonsense, I'll disown you and never talk to you again. And I don't care who you are, I don't care how bad you are, I don't care how tough you are or how tough you profess that you are. Your mom and your dad, man, your mom's your everything, man. You grow up on the streets, man, even on the streets, man, you don't put hands on somebody's mama, right? That's just what it is. But that's my mom, man, and so at that point, it was the turn of me wanting to start to see what it looks like to not be involved in gangs and violence no more.
I ended up getting to the yard. I got on the yard and just doing a lot of dope, bringing in a lot of drugs. And in 2014, I was bad, man. I was jaundice, yellow. I weighed probably about 120 pounds soaking wet. I had just enough room to just get high, just dying. And this black CO picked me up, carried me to medical and said, if you don't treat this guy, he's gonna die. And then a couple of days or the next day, whatever it was later, they called me up to medical to give me my results. And the doctor was like, I'm just gonna give it to you straight. I said, okay. She goes, you got hepatitis C, you got hepatitis B, you got hepatitis E, and you've got 6 months left to live. Your liver's trashed. You're done. And I was like, wait, what? And then there was this dude that came back on a violation who had left high as hell. And he came back on a violation and he was beating up the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He kept asking me if I wanted to read it. And I just kept telling him, look at all these drugs, get out of here, you know what I mean? And I finally started reading it. And they had me on some medication. I started to get a little color back. And I thought, man, I might just make it home. I had like 1.5 years left. And I wanted to be sober. I wanted to be done. I wanted to start going to church. And I wanted to take that stand. So I went out in the yard and I just told them, I was like, I'm out. I'm done. If anybody has a problem with it, let's get it. I remember telling a bunch of them, I said, I'm going to get out of prison. I'm going to be sober and I'm going to have a life and I'm going to have a car and I'm going to have a family and I'm going to have things. If you want to come with me, let's roll. If not, keep doing what you're doing.
I was so scared to walk away because of what they would do to me, right? But when I walked away, 17 of my dudes walked with me because they were afraid what I would do to them if they walked away.
My first thought is, he's a walking dead man. You know what I mean? That's genuinely what I thought. You know what I mean? Why is he doing that? Is he crazy? You know what I mean? I was happy for him, but living the life that we lived for so long, man, unless he was really, really, truly touched by or seen a burning bush or something like that, I really didn't believe it. until I saw it myself when I got out.
He pushed a hard line. I mean, a hard line. He got his braces tattooed on him. You can't take them ever off. And in the end, he didn't want to wear them anymore. He wanted to help people. And he wanted to be with his family and his daughter.
Daily, I have to remind myself that I'm not that guy no more. I daily have to remind myself that because if I don't, there's a good opportunity for me to go back to being that guy. The more time you do, the worse you are when you get out. I got out of prison, man, after spending 25 years in there, man, and like I had PTSD, I had social anxiety, general anxiety, every anxiety. It mentally screws you up. When you get out of prison, it's a time thing. It just doesn't change. Like you don't just change immediately, man. It takes time. But because I have an amazing God today, right, and we all do, is that our stories are real, but if you hear anything out of all of our stories, it's about a God that loved us, man, that like basically transformed us. Because I tell people all the time, I can prove that God's real. And people say, how do you prove that? If you knew my life before and you know my life now, you know that God's real because guys like me don't change.
He had taken from so many people and done so many things, running drugs, running a gang, doing fraud, you know, being on a prison yard, right? Where he was running literally every skinhead. And at the same time, he was trying to be a man of God. You know, God was pulling him towards him, slowly but surely.
I think I know that I believed in God, but I think it was helping me feed my ego, right? And so it wasn't about God. I said it was, but it was more about Garrett, right? And then I started feeling like I'm okay now. I mean, I can drink a beer. You know what I mean? I'm fine. If I drink a beer and I don't go do nothing dumb, then I'm okay. I'm healed, right?
It was a natural progression of him not going to meetings anymore, him not going to church anymore, him thinking that he was bigger than he was. I mean, his head got real big with being in the business development part of treatment and the things that he was doing with these lobbyists and these state representatives and all that he was doing. He got pretty swelled up, you know what I mean, and lost track of the simple thing of this program, you know what I mean, is doing the next right thing and staying sober. And he took that for granted and he thought that he could drink like a gentleman now and do things that gentlemen do. And he ain't no gentleman.
So my mother comes to get me December 11th, 2023. And Garrett wasn't there. When he wasn't there, obviously I knew something was up. And then when I found out he died, I thought that was it. He's never gonna see me live a good life. His last image of me is probably in stripes, and I want to tell him I love him, and that he's my best friend, and there's nothing in this world I wouldn't do for him.
I really was pissed off, you know what I mean? Because they know how close me and him were, and I was hurt, but at the same time I was praying.
So I get to see through him what I can't do, or what I shouldn't do, or what I'm not allowed to do, or what I can never do again. You know what I mean? Because I watched it. My sobriety and the way that I live my life today has a lot to do with Garrett Deetz and him being in my life, and I'm giving myself chills thinking about it right now. You know, he's the best man at my wedding. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be married to the woman I'm married to today.
You know, when he came back and he was doing better, I still was like deep down in my gut, like, oh, it's probably gonna happen again. You don't think about like what happens to the family members of those people, you know, the daughters, the sons, like, you know, they kind of just expect all of it to just go away, and it doesn't go away. You know, the trauma is always there. I was angry. I couldn't even go see him. I was so mad. I was never gonna talk to him again. I was gonna block him, never see him again. I had prayed and wished that he would have just died, because it would have been a lot easier than to go through it again and again and again.
Man, I just lost it, man. The truth is, I decided I was good, man. And I started drinking a little heavy, going to bars and snorting a little cocaine here and there. You know what I mean? Just doing a little bit of blow. It ain't gonna hurt me. And then one night, it's gonna be my last hoorah. You know what I mean? I called my boy, who isn't my boy, and said, hey, I needed a half ounce of powder, right? Which anything 10 years before was cocaine. And that night, when I went to snort what I thought was a line of cocaine, it was pure fentanyl. I had no idea. And so my boys CPR'd me for 32 minutes, literally broke 2 ribs, then carried me down to the paramedics. They CPR'd me and hit me with Narcan and everything else. I got to the hospital after 52 minutes of pretty much being dead. Literally, they put me in a room. I was on a breathing machine, feeding tube, life support with no brain activity for 3 full days. My family had called my cousin that lives in Scotland so she could say goodbye to me. And she said she was screaming at me at the top of her lungs to wake up, just please wake up. And they said I just sat up, I winked at them, and I went back down. Like, if you don't believe in God, man, something's wrong with you, right? They say that a granule of fentanyl can kill a person. And this was a huge line of fentanyl. I would assume, I guess, probably 8-10 pill size line, right? And remember, the doctor came in the next day and he basically told me that he said I should absolutely have complete, utter brain damage. He said my brain's perfectly normal. Again, that's God, right? So I got out of the hospital and I went into treatment. And I went to a buddy of mine owns a program up in Idaho. And I went up there, man, and I just seeked out God. That's what I did. Cried out to God. Took a month and a couple days and just engulfed myself in God. And I came back out of treatment and I just sought and continued to seek God. I tell people all the time, and it's like, I can't explain it, man, but I have this, it's almost like when you're craving food, that's how I crave God. And I'm not being hyper whatever. That's literally how I am daily now. I just want to seek God. But when I got baptized on Easter Sunday with 3 of my boys who were also pretty high in the scene, my life changed. It changed before that, but that day was solid, man, because that day I came up out of the water and I came up with God.
It's crazy because, like, coming from death, right? Like literally being dead almost 5 months ago in a hospital, to getting out and having my boy Mike and his business partner Lindsay and Johnny give me an opportunity at Titan, right? And then getting paired up with Eric and Amber, right? And then just crushing it, dude. Helping people get their roofs fixed, helping them get new stuff. Man, God all over it, man. I could never, ever in the world tell you how much I love Jesus, man, and how much he's done for me, man. And I'm just gonna continue helping people, man. All these roofs. I'm gonna try to get every one of these roofs, man. Every one I can get. And so, like, I'm blessed, man. Every time I come here and I get to talk to you guys and I get to be a part of this, man, it's like I'm blessed daily, man. Thank you for your word, man. I needed to hear that today because I know that.
Oh, Lord, the dynamic duo back. They back together again. It's a yin and yang with us. You know, he gets on my nerves, you know. I get on his nerves, and that's good. You know, really, he really gets on my nerves, bro. Democracy doesn't demand that we agree, but it does demand that we participate. And that's what's important about this right now. So I thank the panel. And I just want to acknowledge also everybody that came from the different organizations. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
The lanes of change will come through advocacy, policy, and community-based education. So when corrections say, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z, it's not on corrections. Corrections is here today. Correction shows up into the community. It's up to us to go into communities and build relationships so we can eliminate the fear of change.
I don't want people to be lost no more, right? I want to give people an opportunity, and I want to show people how important it is that when we help another person that has been in the same situation like us and we work as a group, things can change. And that's how it happens.
We got a reentry project up in Prescott Valley. We're just trying to, man, make a difference. Show people, man, that success is possible after prison. And we just want to show them that, look, if we can do it, you can do it.
I've seen the change. I have. It's been a process. I think we both together try to build our relationship closer on a daily basis. You know, we try to have that connection, and I think we do have that now. And it's amazing. It's awesome to have that, you know? I do have that feeling of like, oh, I do have a dad, you know? And it's awesome having that feeling. Like, he is here for me. I can call him, like, whenever I need to, or when I need something. Like, I can do that. So it's almost weird to me because, like, I'm not used to it, you know? But it's awesome. Yeah, it's good.
I could lay my head in Sheol. I could make my bed at